Unable to kick out corruption from different ministries, the government of Cameroon has turned to establishment of higher learning, campaigning against corruption in university establishments. Surprisingly, corruption is also being practiced in some state universities across Cameroon. In this edition of the news, we shall be taking you to the University of Gaoundéré, that's in the Adamawa region of Cameroon, where the fight against corruption within the university milieu, but also how to teach university students on how not to get into corrupt practices when they get out of school took place. And also in this edition of the news, thousands of contraband fuel in liters were seized by agents from the Ministry of Water Resources and Energy in the economic capital city Douala. The agents coming from Bafoussam in the west region of Cameroon and road to Yaoundé made a surprise stop in Douala, confiscated thousands of liters of fuel contraband in several neighborhoods from the Douala 1 to the Douala 5 subdivision. Also in this edition of the news, we shall be coming back to an attack from unidentified gunmen that left 3 persons assassinated in Manfi, that's in the Manu division of the southwest region of Cameroon. Reports say that at least 7 vehicles were burned and individuals abducted are yet to be found. But also, you should know that Labor Day March Past celebration in Cameroon has been cancelled. Thanks for joining us on the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. We're live from Douala, Cameroon's economic capital city, Equinoxe Central Just Desk. Many arguing that it is a wrong strategy fighting against illicit business or trafficking in fuel and other petroleum products. Many say that the act of seizing from the retailers and local vendors will not in any way help the government of Cameroon through the Ministry of Water Resources and Energy to be able to kick out this sector and these practices from Cameroon, especially in some regions like the littoral, the southwest, the northwest, the center, and some northern regions of Cameroon. They say that the government must go back to the source where the contraband fuel is coming from. It is, however, proven to an extent right, because since the fight, the engagement of the control agents from the ministry in seizing fuel from vendors in several parts of the regional chieftain of the littoral region, the practice is persisting, proven stubborn yesterday, and in the course of the week beginning Monday, several thousands of these contraband fuel were confiscated from vendors by agents from the ministry who are moving to Yaoundé from the west region of Cameroon. Innocent Azar.
Fuel, commonly called Zoazoa, waiting for customers. Instead, hijackers constituting security forces and agents controlling petroleum products approach. The stocks of fuel labeled illicit are seized. An operation that touched several localities in Douala. Seizure accompanied by destruction of the various kiosks on which the fuel is marketed along the road. To ensure effective seizure, the Zoazoa enemies invaded suspicious houses to bring out stocks of this illicit fuel. According to heads of this operation and of the National Brigade in charge of the control of petroleum products,
le ministre de l'eau et de l'énergie,
they are implementing and enforcing the order passed by the Minister of Water and Energy Resources. This for the safety of the population surrounded by the risk involved, and also Cameroon's jeopardized economy.
des marketeurs agréé par le ministère de l'Énergie à la distribution des produits pétroliers.
A recurrent operation that has discouraged the losses incurred dealers from investing in this activity.
Et nous constatons effectivement que les contrebandiers ont abandonné leur point.
It has been difficult to estimate the quantity of fuel seized since start of the operation in Douala on Monday.
Et nous ne pouvons pas encore estimer exactement les quantités qui ont déjà été saisies.
The confiscated fuel has been taken to the Cameroon Petroleum Depot, SDP, Douala, for quality examination. If of good quality, the seized stock will be auctioned to the population, and if of poor quality, it will be destroyed.
The fight against corruption in Cameroon is as old as the creation or the very existence of the National Anti-Corruption Commission, CONAC. CONAC has been fighting corruption in ministries, in regions and in subdivisions as well as in divisions, but also within the school milieu. Recently, CONAC officials headed to the University of Ngaoundéré to launch a fight against corruption within the university milieu, but also across the Adama region of Cameroon. Many say that officials have decided to tackle Cameroonians at the base where they are being trained, that is the school milieux, in order to give in them the knowledge that corruption must at all costs be avoided. But how effective is just this strategy is part of the report compiled by Glory Mala.
At the University of Ngaoundéré, Amphi 750, that these students gather to learn new method of denouncing corruption in the school milieu. This was during the launching ceremony by CONAC, the anti-corruption unit, with the objective to introduce new strategy to fight bribery through phones.
Yeah, we choose Ngaoundéré to launch this new means of communication to bring CONAC nearer to the people, because Ngaoundéré is a university town, and Ngaoundéré is the center of communities between the north and the south. So we thought that we would get a lot of people to communicate this our new means of communication, to bring CONAC nearer to the people, so people will not be forced to come to Yaoundé for their demonstrations.
The students were directed to either use the free number 1517 or 65826262 as a WhatsApp number for messages to report corruption cases.
Now, henceforth, people will be dedicated to inform CONAC, to tell CONAC that there is some cases of corruption here and there.
At least 90% of Cameroonians have phones, 50% are smartphones, and a majority of students make use of phones for their research. According to members of CONAC, this is really a great tool to send key information to reduce the level of corruption in the country.
Corruption is said to be the backbone of the failures of the effectiveness of most government projects in different parts of Cameroon, but others also argue that it is one of the ills that is worsening social life in Cameroon and has resulted consequently to multiple crises on the economic and social domain in Cameroon, and others are also advancing corruption as to one of the remote causes of the armed conflict hitting the northwest and southwest English-speaking regions of Cameroon. It's been on for over 5 years and has continued to metamorphosize, and recently an unidentified attack or an attack from unidentified armed men left 3 persons assassinated in Manfi, chief town of the Manu division of the southwest region of Cameroon. In the course of that attack Thursday, at least 7 vehicles were burnt and some individuals abducted and taken to an undisclosed destination. We come back to the report compiled by Simanjikan Gabriel.
It was a difficult start of the day for the inhabitants of Manfi town in Manu division, southwest region of Cameroon. The population woke up to discover that all cars that were stationed at the park have been burned. The incident happened at about 2 a.m. this Thursday. According to inhabitants of Manfi town, They heard gunshots for several hours throughout the night of Wednesday, breaking Thursday, only for them to wake up to discover the destructions. Apart from the burnt cars, a bar that was used by all travelers was also set ablaze, with all its contents destroyed. At the time of this report, sources told us that at least 3 people were also shot during the shootout, with a former delegate kidnapped and taken away by the unknown gunmen who attacked the town. This attack is coming some few weeks after 2 other separatist fighters were killed in Chang village as they attempted to attack the convoy of the senior divisional officer who was on the Meet the People store.
If you are a worker in Cameroon who expected much from the 2022 edition of the International Labour Day commemoration in Cameroon, especially as far as March past is concerned, sorry, you will have to wait again probably for next year in order to be able to perform this exercise, which is a part or has been part of Labour Day celebration in Cameroon for several years before the coming of the coronavirus pandemic. The Minister of Labour and Social Security, Cameroon's Minister Grégoire Ouna, indicated in a government communication yesterday that March past exercise and other exercises that were common within activities marking Labour Day in Cameroon will not be accepted this year. In other words, it's been cancelled, but other activities should also go ahead, but not festivities. It should be recovered. The minister indicated that the reason is the coronavirus pandemic. Minister Grégoire Ouna advanced that the COVID-19 pandemic, which is having a resurgence in Europe and Asia, is also threatening Cameroon, and as part of measures put in place by the government of Cameroon to avoid the effect on the population, will also avoid a possible disturbing outbreak of this wave of the coronavirus in Cameroon. Then March past and other group activities marking the 2022 edition of the International Labour Day in Cameroon, the 1st of May, that is on Sunday, has been cancelled. And in a related story, Cameroon's Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manahouda Malachi, in a press release yesterday, Thursday, is calling for a return to the prohibition of gatherings of more than 50 people, a return to social distancing and the wearing of protective face masks across Cameroon. In a press release Thursday, April the 28th, 2022, the minister says Cameroon risks importing the new and ravaging outbreak of the coronavirus from Europe and Asia, which the volume, or given the volume of trade between Cameroon and the affected areas of the world. The minister Manahouda Malachi says, faced with the resurgence of cases of contaminations accompanied by numerous deaths, some of the countries in Europe and Asia are already resorting to a compulsory screening of their population, while others are advocating a return to strict confinement. Cameroon's minister Manahouda Malachi says it is important for Cameroonians to go back to the barrier measures outlined by the government of Cameroon and the World Health Organization, including the wearing of face masks, the prohibition of the gathering of more than 50 people, the regular hand washing or sanitation of hands with hand drops, and others. It is contained in the communique as you see on your screens, signed by Dr. Manahouda Malachi, Cameroon's Public Health Minister. On to something else, food security in Cameroon and other African countries, especially countries of the sub-Saharan African region, is said to be suffering from the war between Russia and Ukraine, with the situation to go chronic if the war continues after the month of April. The month of April that ends tomorrow. This is contained in the April 28th report of the international human rights group Human Rights Watch, which indicates the fallout of the Russia-Ukraine war on food security in Africa. Human Rights Watch in its report goes on to call on the governments of Cameroon and other African countries affected by food shortage to act in order to protect everyone's right to adequate standards of living. We have details with Equinoxe.
According to the Human Rights Watch report of April 28, the Russia war on Ukraine has worsened food security in Cameroon, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda and other countries in the East, West, Middle and Southern Africa. The war comes to sour food prices in these countries already suffering from hikes provoked by floods, drought, landslides and the COVID-19 pandemic, as production efforts and global supply chains were interrupted. These African countries depend on Russia and Ukraine for a significant percentage of their wheat, fertilizer, vegetable oil or iron ore imports. Human Rights Watch research on the food situation in Cameroon, Kenya and Nigeria affirms that rising food prices exacerbated by the war severely affects people's livelihoods and food security, especially in countries where adequate social protection is lacking. The World Food Programme, that also depends on Russia and Ukraine for wheat to supply around the world, warned that if the war lasts beyond April, acute hunger may increase by 17% globally, with the sharpest increases expected in East, West and Southern African countries, as people here may experience acute food insecurity rise by 20.8%, affecting 174 million people. According to the Food and Agricultural Organization's estimates for 2020, the cost of nutritious foods and inequality get healthy diets out of reach for 66.2% of people in the region before the war. Approximately 323.2 million people in Africa, or 29.5% of the population, ran out of food or went without eating that year. In West and Middle Africa, the share of food insecure populations is even higher, 68.3% and 70% respectively. The number of people affected by food insecurity continues to increase under the shadow of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Human Rights Watch report indicates that food inflation particularly affects people in poverty who spend more of their income on food even when consuming the lowest cost options. The rights organization says governments should act to protect everyone's rights to an adequate standard of living, and in particular the right to food, by scaling up emergency food aid and expanding social protection systems. A global fund for social protection be set up. International financial institutions like the World Bank and International Monetary Fund should refrain from pressuring countries to adopt fiscal consolidation measures that could further raise the cost of food or cut social spending.
On to health, we still talk of a shortage, but this time around of drugs for people suffering from tuberculosis in Cameroon. To say that tuberculosis patients across Cameroon say they are gradually dying because of the shortage of drugs for their treatment. For close to 2 weeks, they have been unable to get treatment due to a nationwide shortage of drugs within the tuberculosis treatment program in Cameroon. Alphonse Sabena Yesi, spokesperson of tuberculosis patients, say they have been contacted by several patients frustrated by the situation. He says most of these patients are even frustrated more by the fact that there is no clear information given to them by authorities on when the drugs will be available. The situation, he says, should not only preoccupy tuberculosis victims but the general public, given the potential and risks of multiple contaminations. This, he says, is possible as the situation worsens. Talking to Equinoxe Radio and Television, one of the officials of the National Tuberculosis Treatment Program for the Littoral region said drugs will be available for the treatment of victims beginning next week. However, tuberculosis patients say similar promises were made last week, and on the second week running, nothing concrete has happened. Despite a light drop, tuberculosis remains one of the most infectious diseases in Cameroon, with some 22,850 cases recorded in 2021 across the National Triangle. The Littoral region counts on 4,566 cases, and the victims are catered for by the government of Cameroon. Tuberculosis treatment lasts 6 months, and timing, and experts say that the non-respect of medication and timing is the cause of the current prevalence rate across the country. In a day in the Sanaga Maritime Division, the people are worried. They say that the continuous rise in the prices of basic commodities is making life even more difficult in that part of the littoral. We have details with Mala Glory.
Housewives, businessmen and women in the town of Idea are facing tough times with the continuous increase in the prices of basic commodities. Unable to feed their families, the inhabitants cry out, while others are going out of business as they no longer make profits.
Last time I buy like bread, I buy bread by 100 francs in one bread. But now the price have already changed. There are many poor people that are in this country. I pray that the government should try to help us to reduce the price.
A chicken now costs between 4,500, 7,000 and above. If you don't have that amount of money, you won't have it. In the past years, we used to buy a bag of carrots at 17,000 francs or 18,000 francs. But this year, we now buy at 27,000 francs. Apart from basic commodities, the prices of construction materials has as well experienced a drastic increase. Some of these building materials are not available on the market.
Le carton de carreaux qui coûtait 4 500, aujourd'hui on vend le même carton de carreaux à 7 500 francs et on n'en trouve même pas sur le marché.
A carton of ties, which we once bought it at 4,500 francs, now costs 7,500 francs, and it's often not available. A bag of cement, now 5,500 instead of 4,500 like in the yesteryears.
Tu attends un mois pour réceptionner le ciment. Parfois même après
the hike of prices on imported products in these parts of the country, just like elsewhere in Cameroon, according to many, is due to the ongoing war in Ukraine. Meanwhile, the scarcity of local products remains a situation difficult to explain.
You know, this scarcity and hike in the prices of basic commodities is not specific to Idea, the Sanaga Maritime Division of the Littoral region of Cameroon. It is a problem faced by inhabitants of all the 10 regions of Cameroon, and also in the southwest regional chieftain Boya. People are complaining that prices of basic commodities keep increasing, and worse is the fact that there is no corresponding increase in the purchasing power of Cameroon. But the people of the southwest regional chieftain are also crying the effects of the Anglophone crisis. But one of the major problems is water scarcity. Boya sits close, or you can say at the foot of Mount Cameroon, a watershed in Cameroon, but paradoxically has a disturbing water crisis. We have details with Derek Jato.
The area view of Boya, the southwest regional capital. The demographic expansion of this first German capital is projected, but there is a serious price Boya is paying for her growth.
Women get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Women with children on their backs go and fetch water in the night. Children going to school, they don't have water to drink. They drink dirty water.
Increasing as Boya expands.
I remember the years when we were growing, water was flowing all over the village. We had taps all over the village. But in the late 90s, the taps were not flowing as they were flowing. In the late 2000s, the water now stopped flowing.
The Boya Council on her part is on the situation, But the water population equation is far from being balanced.
We have a borehole which the Boya Council gave us, but we have tried to rejuvenate it and it supplies some water, but at times, the boreholes disappoint. So
the matter is serious, and any initiative to bring water closer is welcome. Today, Honorable Malumba Esembe, the Member of Parliament for Buea Urban Constituency, is climbing the Buea Mountain. He has been briefed of a water project at Hot 1 of this active volcano mountain, and he is heading to the spring source.
I have come here as a servant of the community to see for myself what has been done to encourage those who are doing the work. A project which is being graciously sponsored by the Mount Cameroon National Park and the AIVDP, which is a project under the Ministry of Agriculture.
Mapanja, Likombe Bwasa, Nanga, and Bokwango villages will benefit from the water project.
It looks like every part of Cameroon, say a village, town and city, has got its specific problem. The problems that are also cannot be separated from the general problems faced by Cameroonians. Buea is having this problem of water scarcity, but in Limbe, the chief town of the Fako division, we are still in the southwest region of Cameroon, there is a problem, and it's a problem of workers of the Limbe City Council, and the question is just how soon and when exactly will their salaries be paid. It's a question that is on the lips of every worker of the Limbe City Council, and after going for several months without salaries, the workers of the Limbe City Council received what some qualify as yet another unwanted promise from the city mayor Paul Afumengale. Speaking in the course of a general assembly at the Limbe City Council chambers in the Bota neighborhood of the city of Limbe, the mayor told councillors and workers of the Limbe City Council that he has facilitated the procedure for an eventual payment of their months of unpaid salaries, though failing to see when exactly the payment will be done. The city of Limbe, it should be recalled, is still battling to fully recover from the differences created during the election of Paul Afome as the new city mayor of the city of Limbe. Some of his immediate collaborators say deputies are still disgruntled after the process. We move from the Fako division of the southwest region of Cameroon, go past the Meme division, right up to the Kupe Maninguba divisional chief town of Bangem. Yes, we are in the Kupe Maninguba division, where generating income remains a major challenge faced by Bangem municipal councillors, and this problem was raised during a council session grouping councillors of the Bangem council. They also say that they are suffering the effect of the Anglophone crisis on revenue collection, as it is very difficult to go to the suburbs, some villages within the council area, to collect revenue.
Calm is gradually returning in the town of Bangem, Kupe Maninguba division of the southwest region. However, the ongoing Anglophone crisis has drastically affected economic activities, making it hard for councils to generate income so as to properly develop the area, which is undergoing an economic crisis.
The Bangem Council, just like other councils, especially in the northwest and the southwest, where we've had a lot of problems. The problem is not very much that of the mayor or the council as a whole, but the difficulties in raising revenue. There are areas in the Bangem municipality where the problem is that fear still lingers in people's minds to go there and collect taxes. Some salaries have not been paid of workers, but we have absolute hope. The mayor is doing just everything in his own power to see that these council workers smile. But like I said before, the problem is collection.
The collection of revenue was so low in certain heads, in many of the heads, because the people who were collecting those revenue could not really register each revenue according to the various heads that were given to them, because they are not people who are not professionals. We have told the mayor that let stringent measures be taken from next year or from this year to make sure that any single revenue which is paid should be registered.
Revamping the revenue collection sector, amongst other things, remains the priority of the Bangem Council. The 2021 budget was voted at a sum of 830 million francs CFA with an execution rate of 75%.
The efforts that we make, there will never be enough for us to raise revenue, because more and more as the centime on which we depend is becoming smaller and smaller, we are required to raise more and more revenue to be able to do many things in the council. For example, the payment of salaries. So we have been doing quite a lot to raise revenue, but as you see, the councillors expect us to put in more effort.
Jean-Marie Chakwi, Senior Divisional Officer of Kupe Maningoba Division, invites council authorities not to solely rely on government support, but find other income-generating sources and manage the resources transparently.
I am not quite satisfied with some aspects, namely the collection of local revenue, because the potential we are having in this council is very important. We ask the mayor to make all arrangements to revamp the collection of local revenue.
Bangem is one of those localities hardest hit by the ongoing Anglophone crisis. The council is determined more than ever to help revamp the economy in order to better cater for the population who elected them.
Though disappointed or not very happy, he however indicated that Bangem was far ahead of some other municipal councils within the Kupe Maningoba division. I'm talking about the senior divisional officer for the Kupe Maningoba, notably the Nguti Council and the Tombe Council. There are 3 council areas or 3 subdivisions that make up the Kupe Maningoba division of the southwest region of Cameroon. A bit of geography there, and thank God we saw a female councillor or some female councillors. That is just that it goes to tell you that women have been fighting from local council areas to the national level to be fully represented on decision-making positions and on the political landscape. It is the interests of this other story we shall be taking you to Somalia to talk about, and Somalia, which has made history by voting a woman as Deputy Speaker of Parliament for the first time. The lady you see on your screen, her name is Sadia Samata, who was voted in a parliamentary election which took place in the Somalian capital of Mogadishu. It is a major shift of the country's political landscape. It was very difficult for women to be voted in such positions in the country, Somalia. And also a veteran politician, Sheikh Aden Mohamud Nur Madobe, who is seated next to the lady, has also become the new Speaker of the same house, that is the National Assembly in the country. It should be recovered in Somalia. Women are fighting hard to have more than 30 quotas or 30% quotas in the country's political landscape and key decision-making positions in the country. It is not a fight specific to Somalia, but also in Cameroon and other African countries. However, there's been much advancement at the level of the National Assembly. In Cameroon, female MPs are coming from almost all the 10 regions, and recently the election at the National Assembly in Cameroon saw some women voted on to the Bureau of the National Assembly in Cameroon. Ladies and gentlemen, that story brings us to the end of this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. We thank you for your keen attention. We wish you a nice weekend, but also a blessed day in the company of interesting programs on Equinoxe.